All right, so hopefully everyone can hear and see me well. Welcome everyone for today's webinar. We will start now with all the presentation and the slides as well. So my name is Ferenc Hudák. I'm a solution architect at Capture PPM, and I will be your host for today and presenting during this session. I have with me two other gentlemen, James Greene, who's the IT PMO head at Innio, and also Andreas Aschauer, a senior solution consultant from ServiceNow. They will help me with today's agenda and also do a presentation regarding today's agenda and what we will talk about. Let me share my screen now and start with the agenda itself. Hopefully you can, all right, so hopefully you can see my screen as well. And let's jump into the agenda, what will we talk about today. So first, we will talk about strategic portfolio management in complex environments. I will start with a short introduction on ServiceNow. Whoever you might not be familiar with the tool itself, what does it mean, SPM, as strategic portfolio management, and also talk about a little bit about complex environments. What do we mean by that? And how did we end up with Innio as one of our customers, and how the environment looked like during that implementation. And after that, I would hand over the word to James, who will talk about in a little bit more detail about the challenges and the implementation experience with their company, how basically we started with the tool for the IT PMO and how the project grew into a company-wide solution, basically, and also how the implementation went. After that, so that will take around 20 minutes talking about the implementation experience. And after that, we would go into the industry-specific challenges, which is the third topic on our agenda. That will be something that I will talk about just a little about our experiences with PPM implementation and what do we mean by the question, does vertical matter? And ServiceNow point of view on that, and our experience, basically what we see during PPM tool implementations. And the last topic on our agenda will be news on the ServiceNow Tokyo release. This will be presented by Andreas. Again, 20 minutes about the new release, the new features and functionalities that arrived in September with the new version of ServiceNow. And after that, if we have time, we try to stick to the 60 minutes that we have allocated for this webinar. We will have a Q&A session and also just discuss any questions that might come up during this presentation. So without further ado, I would just start with the first agenda point, which is ServiceNow SPM, or Strategic Portfolio Management, formerly known as the ITBM solution, which was IT Business Management in complex environments. The first one is, what is ServiceNow? Just to answer that, let me show you one screen. So basically, ServiceNow is a cloud-based platform solution that enables organizations to automate many processes in the organization and focuses on a platform methodology, but basically providing many functionalities and many functionality groups from one platform. As you can see here in the middle, we see the Now platform itself, which provides the basic, the backbone for the full solution. And around that, we see the many functionality groups that ServiceNow provides currently. Just a quick walk around and walk through the different functionality groups. For example, we have IT service management that many of you could be familiar with, because basically this is the most common use case, I believe, for ServiceNow. This is the ticketing and asset management solution from their side. But other than the IT service management, we also have in the tool customer service management capabilities. We have HR service delivery and HR related processes supported, security operations for IT, governance and risk management functionalities, software asset management, IT operation management, and mostly what we will focus on today and what Capture is also focusing on is strategic portfolio management. What is included in the strategic portfolio management, I will talk about in just a second. But one thing that is the strength of the whole platform solution and also ServiceNow's vision, that basically any of these functionalities can be enabled individually and the company can use them separately as different solutions. But even when multiple of these functionality groups are enabled for an organization, the platform itself will provide the same backbone structure, the same database, flow designer and process management and automation and notification functionalities for each of these groups. And because we have one database structure behind the whole solution, that means that each of these functionalities are able to communicate with each other. Therefore, IT service management can be easily integrated with strategic portfolio management, and so on goes for HR and other functionality groups as well. If we move on and look closer into the SPM functionality, so what does strategic portfolio management means? SPM itself also is a group of functionalities and processes that ServiceNow supports, focusing on the project management and portfolio management capabilities, but not only focusing on that, but also having investment funding functionalities, basically how to finance different portfolios and different organizations who are managing project. Innovation management, which could be your usual ideation process or idea management process in the organization supported by the system. Demand management, resource, project, program, and portfolio management, and also release management. For portfolio management capabilities, we also have alignment planner workplace that should help us with scenario planning to plan for future years and basically portfolios for the upcoming years. Which is something that I assume every company do. And on top of that, we have still time card management, which is the timesheet functionality also integrated with all the project and program management functionalities. Scrum programs and the whole agile functionality group in there, which could be used separately, but also using the scaled agile framework, if that's something that the company is familiar with and something that is uses. And all of this supported by a test management functionality and many more going into the application portfolio management features itself. And as you can see here down below in the middle, we still have the platform capabilities, meaning that all the functions that we are using are still supported by the same workflow automation possibilities, notifications, and everything that is provided by ServiceNow through the platform itself. If we go further, then what does complex environment means? And this will be one of our main topics for today. So complex environment can mean two things from our perspective. One is, let's say, an organization that already leverages multiple use cases or multiple functionality groups of the ServiceNow platform, and that's where we would arrive as a next vendor implementing strategic portfolio management features. In that perspective, the usual setup is that we have multiple vendors for these different functionality groups. That means different release methodologies, different development methodologies behind these vendors, and that has to be organized and synchronized between all parties included. That brings a complexity, or could bring a complexity into an implementation. And from another perspective, if you're not just focusing on the platform itself, but look into a little bit further in the details for strategic portfolio management, complex implementation for us could mean that we are not just implementing for one PMO or one project organization within the company, but if we have multiple PMOs distributed along the different departments and organization structure, basically these PMOs could have different processes, different tools already, what they're using, and an implementation in that environment is something that we would also consider as a complex implementation, because we have to consolidate those processes and implement all these PMOs and have them transition into the platform itself. The reason why we also reached out for James in Innio is because we are just about to close our implementation project, which we started last year. And from that perspective, so from Innio's perspective, although we started with a small IT PPM tool implementation, I say small, but basically it was just a standard PPM tool implementation process. The project itself grew into bigger implementation and making ServiceNow SPM into a company-wide PPM solution. And that's why I would hand over now the words to James and let him talk about the experience itself and how the implementation project itself went in the last year.
Thank you,
that, I would give you, James, the keyboard and access. Let me know if that works and you can
all right, thank you.
take control.
All right, let me just check this. There we go. So, good morning. I'd like to give you a very brief introduction to Innio Group and to myself, and then a view of our project as it has run for the past roughly 18 months. So Innio Group, we are a manufacturing company based in Jenbach in beautiful Tyrol, Austria. We manufacture engines, gas engines for energy and warmth production, and we also service those engines. So skipped too far ahead. There we go. We are based, the headquarters is based in Jenbach, Austria. We also have two other manufacturing sites in Welland, Canada and Waukesha, Wisconsin. So far, we've delivered as a group about 54,000 units and 56,000 gigawatts of energy that has been produced using our engines. The Innio Group has existed in this form since about 2018, formerly GE companies, GE Jenbacher and GE Waukesha, that were carved out in 2018 by an investor group and came together to form Innio. We're about 3,500 employees worldwide, including 3,500 manufacturing and fixed employees in the offices. And then we have an additional about 3,000 service personnel who are running around worldwide, keeping our engines online and delivering energy across the planet. So, sorry. The keyboard is reacting slower than I expected. So just a very quick view of the timeline. Again, Waukesha engines came out in 1930s. Jenbach came out in 1957 after World War II. The history of Jenbach, Jenbacher motors actually goes back a lot further, but the first production of gas engines was 1957. We have some very innovative products these days. We're very proud of our fast start engines now. For example, the J620, where we are able to have an engine that is in standby and can deliver its full energy potential after just 45 seconds. This is very useful as emergency backup power for data centers and so on. We also have our largest engine, that's the 920 series, that are able to deliver massive amounts of power. We are essentially gas engines. We also have a new generation of engines that are able to work with hydrogen, and we are also in supporting of biological gases, not just natural gas, but also biogases. So to introduce myself very briefly, my name is James Greene. I'm the head of the IT project management office at Innio Group. I have been with Innio for about 2 years. Before joining the Innio Group, I was a consultant working in the life sciences industry. Spent nearly 30 years working in life sciences. If you have any questions, I'm available on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me. So the Innio project portfolio management system, it started out, as Feri said, a very simple project. In the IT, we had when I joined the IT PMO and took over here, we had a tool that was that had been built for a purpose by my predecessors. It was based on Microsoft Power Apps and Power BI, and they were using that for managing our project portfolio. The problem that we had with that tool was it was basically just managing the demand process. And once the projects were actually approved, the only thing the project manager could do and had to do was to file a monthly project status report. But the tool did not support the project managers and help them do their daily business. It only provided them additional effort, additional work, having to submit a status report in a tool. So when I came in, I started an evaluation of professional project management tools to provide a tool set to my project managers to make their job easier. The things I was looking for was something that supported our demand to project approval procedure, the ability to centralize and control project planning. In a lot of cases, our project managers, they were managing their projects using desktop tools, Microsoft Project or PowerPoint or Excel. And if we had a project manager leave or fall ill, their project plans were lost because we couldn't access them. So I wanted to have their project planning in a centralized tool in the cloud so that we could do transitions from one PM to another. And also the ability to have a common project reporting platform. So those were the goals that I came in with. As we did a market evaluation, I looked at about 7 different project management tools. And some of the tools out there, some built for purpose tools, they are all extremely well done. Some of them are more focused on visualization. Some of them are more focused on actually managing project management methodologies. The choice that we made at the end was for ServiceNow. And the reason for that was that ServiceNow was the quickest solution for us. Any other tool that we would introduce would have added complexity to our IT landscape, whereas ServiceNow was already in use by our IT service desk. And that meant we could eliminate the entire implementation project. We didn't have to establish all of the supporting processes because they were already in place. We already had ServiceNow. We had our users available in the system. We had the interfaces already set up between ServiceNow and our HR system to get updates of all of the employees. We had all of the metadata in the system in terms of our organization. That made the choice for ServiceNow absolutely logical. We also had a parallel project going on at the same time, which was for enterprise risk. And so we decided to leverage both of those initiatives into ServiceNow, which put us in a better negotiating position in terms of licenses. ServiceNow is an excellent tool, but it is also a serious financial commitment when you need licenses for several hundred project managers and for enterprise risk management. But by leveraging both of these projects, that was the most successful business case we had. At the same time, ServiceNow had recommended Capture Europe as a implementation partner. That was a win for us as well. Capture having an office in Vienna meant that we had a partner in Austria, which made it for us very easy for us to have on-site meetings as soon as the COVID restrictions allowed it. Austria has some very strict regulations in terms of bringing in people from outside of Austria to do work. Having a partner who is based in Austria meant we were able to get people to come here on site for workshops very quickly without having to deal with a lot of additional regulations, a lot of certifications. So that was a win for us as well. So our project plan, this was our original rollout plan. We started out, again, focusing on the IT as the primary user, but the business case said that we should try and deploy a PM tool across the organization. This was a request from our management so that we could roll up and at the end have a dashboard of our project health across the organization and not just IT projects. So we started out with a plan to roll out IT and finance first, begin speaking with engineering as well, and the rest of our business units. This was the original plan. Now, if I switch to the next page, you'll see things were not, didn't work out exactly as we originally anticipated. The engineering department turned out to require a much longer, much more complex deployment process. Their expectations from project management and from the PM tool were much, much higher, much more complex. We ended up doing a complex reporting process for them that involved bringing information out of ServiceNow and cross-referencing it to information being pulled out of our Oracle ERP system, dropping that all into a BI system so that we could generate these complex reports. Absolutely technically possible, very well supported by Capture, but still a very complex undertaking because there was multiple units involved. Our ERP development team, our BI development team, our Lobster interface development team, plus we had a change in our business partner in engineering at the end of December. So we had a transition from one key expert to another, which also added some complexity. Sourcing department went very easily. Manufacturing went very easily. You see here the digital department, they chose not to participate. They had very mature existing processes running in their JIRA system, and they didn't see a benefit of moving to ServiceNow. And we decided to support that decision and not to pursue an integration there. So again, we have a relatively simple system with some complex interfaces. How are these interfaces developed? The first request that we had actually came from me. I wanted to have the actual cost of the projects imported into ServiceNow. So when we have a project, when a PO is assigned to that project, that we can see in ServiceNow how much money has been consumed from the budget without having to enter everything twice. So that was done relatively soon after the initiation of the project. That was also relatively easy. The next demand came then from engineering, portfolio planning and reporting, where we have to transfer data from both Oracle and ServiceNow into Microsoft Azure. It gets processed through Tableau to generate these reports. Additional demands then came from our finance department for capital appropriations requests, an approval workflow for capital expenditures and operational expenditures That has also now been implemented. The difficulty there being the workflow itself. It's a relatively simple workflow in theory, but there are multiple cases. The decision tree behind that is relatively complex, and the overall process hasn't been clearly mapped out. So we have this working in an initial version, but we're still continuing to develop it. And finally, the project creation workflow, which means now, as of last week, when we have a project in ServiceNow, we can have it automatically creating the accounts in Oracle so that we are saving effort. In the past, this was done manually by several people in our finance department. We have now automated that to save effort on the finance side. And all of these developments were done together with Feri and with Capture, and it's been a very long process, but it is all now working, and it was a very good process for us. Again, we have achieved several significant benefits from it. What were the lessons learned from our project? This very quickly. As we went from an IT-based project to a global group-wide project, we found that the different PMOs have very different processes and reporting needs. Our group IT processes are generally applicable and aligned with most of the other business units. Engineering is an exception. What we understand in IT as projects and what engineering understands as projects are two different worlds. Engineering projects are multi-million, multi-year engine development projects, whereas IT, our project portfolio is much more complex. We have, as of today, I think we have 117 projects running in our IT portfolio, whereas engineering may only be running 10 projects, but they're 100 times more complex. We underestimated the effort and the complexity of engineering projects when we started out. Overall, across our organization, the maturity level of our project managers is not high enough. So we are still continuing with project management trainings plus ServiceNow trainings. Our quality department is actually hosting now a series of project management workshops. I actually have one next week where I'll be addressing project risk management and project cost management. So we're working on improving our overall PM maturity level, but it's a long process. Some of the business areas have additional security and confidentiality requirements, which added complexity. Obviously, when you have HR, there are certain projects that they don't want the rest of the world to be able to see in the system. The same with our transformation office. When we have projects going on that the people are not allowed to know about, we want to make sure that those projects can be hidden successfully in the system, where the people who need to see them can, but everybody else cannot. And finally, I mentioned this before, technically interfacing between ServiceNow, Oracle, and Azure it's not a technical difficulty, but it is an organizational challenge to get all of these different development teams to understand the needs and work together and find times when we can get them all together at one table for a meeting, especially when we are working very virtually. And they all have different reporting lines. They all have different business priorities as well. So are there any questions?
Let me see if I have to remute or unmute the whole audience for that. But if you have any questions, feel free to also drop it in the chat. And we will try to answer them from there.
Okay. Otherwise, Feri, back to you. Thank you.
Many thanks, James. Really appreciate. Yeah, so thank you for the few words. I'll take the control over back. All right. Yes, so if there are no questions at the end of the session, we will try to save some time also for a generic Q&A session, including the part that James just showed to us, and also regarding the 2 other or 3 other topics that we discussed today. So moving on, let me just quickly go to the next point, which is the industry-specific challenges and the question related, does vertical matter? I believe that goes without saying that so different industries will have different sorts of challenges and requirements in terms of their IT support and their IT capabilities. But from our perspective, so Capture also has, as you can see here, this is just a picture to show throughout the whole organization, we have more than 300 customers currently in our base, not just solely focusing on PPM as project portfolio management implementations, but also for Automic and other business areas. But basically, that's the same thing that we see, and also what ServiceNow suggests, that it does matter that different industries should receive or should have different benefits from different IT solutions, and there should be a specific offer for each of these industries in terms of their IT support. What we wanted to discuss today is how does it apply to the SPM, the strategic portfolio management tool itself, and project portfolio management, and basically just our experience with the implementation so far, what we see. As James mentioned, so with Innio, we also started from the beginning where we wanted to implement as an IT PPM tool, and most of our implementation are like the Innio's case, that we are starting from the IT perspective. The reason for that could be different for each company, but we believe that so the IT, most of the case, have the biggest flexibility in terms of IT processes and project portfolio management processes, and because they have more standard projects and smaller project sizes, using also these waterfall, agile, or hybrid methodologies in, let's say, not a simple but more standard way. From that perspective, they are more flexible and easier to switch between solutions, or to enjoy the benefits of a different PPM solution, even if, especially if it's more implemented or integrated into the IT architecture. But as James says, because IT itself usually in different organizations will have the same challenges and same activities that they have to tend to. So for example, IT security and support for the underlying the other organizations from the IT structure. As James mentioned for us in previous calls, so basically if you get an IT department, take it out from an organization and maybe move it to another organization with another company, there's a good chance that that IT company or that IT organization and group will be able to support the different company as well, because they have similar processes and similar project sizes from that perspective. On the other hand, and also, so that's why our experience as well, that usually the IT project implementations are usually that we start with. And from a timeline perspective, these are the projects that take, let's say, the smaller portion of the whole implementation project when the business side is also involved. As we did with Innio, and as James mentioned too, when business side, so engineering as well, joined the implementation project, and there was a decision that they will transition to the ServiceNow platform and use the project portfolio management tool there. That's where we started to see basically the first bigger challenges, which are not mainly for integration related, but process related from that perspective, and reporting related. Because as we see, business usually have more complex processes and more of a stage gate driven process model behind their usual workflows, and that makes it a little more complex in terms of implementation as well, because they have basically they have more complex processes that the system have to support. And with these processes tied comes the more complex reporting requirements, and that's why an implementation in that environment could take more time and be a bigger challenge. Now, how does different industries behave in that perspective? So we do believe also on our side that different industries, so for example, manufacturing, oil industry, or finance, financial companies will have different business processes supported by different approval processes behind them. And that one solution that was already sufficient for a manufacturing company could be a good guide for another company that also is in the manufacturing industry itself. That's basically our point of view on that topic. I would like to also provide a Q&A possibility if you have any questions related to that topic, but I would save that for the end of the session. And with that, I would go to our next presenter and hand over to Andreas, who will show us the new functionalities from the Rome release, which was released in September last month. Andreas, you are with us?
Thank you so much.
Yes, then let me give you the control.
I wait on the power to share my screen, which you should see now.
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you and welcome to this part of the presentation. It's all about what is new in the Tokyo release of strategic portfolio management. As you know, before this solution was named IT business management. Due to the lot of different functionalities, not only IT specific, we changed the name in strategic portfolio management, same type of functionalities, and of course coming new functionalities in Tokyo. Short introduction about myself, senior advisor solution consultant in EMEA, focus on Switzerland, Austria, Eastern Europe, and Germany. Based in Vienna, joined ServiceNow in February 2019. Since first quarter of this year, I overtook the SPM EMEA practice lead, and I spent the last 15 years in project portfolio management and agile management arena. Let's focus on the Tokyo teams. So basically, this is one slide with all the new functionality in once. Then I will go a little bit deeper and then show you the highlights on my environment live. So we have strategic portfolio management, which is typically then decomposed also in applications portfolio management. So we have improved usabilities with project workspace enhancements, export to PowerPoint, one of the major features of this release, and then also look and feel of safe and agile boards. In strategic portfolio management, in the alignment planner workspace, the possibility to prioritize the backlog, so having then a ranking of the backlog. And specific for the application portfolio management, we have a focus of minimizing risks. So the definition of the technology reference model, so typically the list of the standard software that should be used in the company with the possibility to have an approval on that, and also prove the so-called technical debt. What are the business applications that are not using standard software? This is all about standard cost reductions and control of the security of your environment. That said, as you maybe know, if you follow ServiceNow, since many releases, we constantly add new functionalities. This is the part of project portfolio management and agile management. So you see that the constant amount of new functionality that is coming release by release, and then help you then to further unlock the value of this solution at your side. If we now drill down a little bit more, we have under new features, export to PowerPoint. So the possibility to define templates and to modify templates in PowerPoint, and directly extract the project status reports in PowerPoint using your own template. you can also change the template using classical PowerPoint knowledge, so you don't need complex knowledge in order to do that. The alignment planner workspace is all about backlog ranking. And in the project workspace, we had a functionality that you already know, the new experience to work on the work breakdown structure, to have a multi-row intent and unintent of my tasks, and also support for external hard dependencies between different projects. If we then go further, we have a common look and feel for agile and safe boards. We have also very important an additional expansion of the project financial view, having then metrics in one common view that give then a complete overview on plan cost, actuals, estimated completion, estimate to complete, and budget. And for one who are using investment funding, the possibility to have co-owners of at the investment level. This is the overview of the new functionality from the strategic portfolio management, special to application portfolio management, which is one of the, let's say, IT specific components of the solution, which led to the previous name IT business management, is coming in September. As you see also here, constant new functionalities. In the Tokyo release, we have a list of very strong new functionalities. First of all, technology reference model, so expanding the possibility to have business applications, business capabilities, and the informations these applications are working on. We have also the control of the risk of the technology used by the business application with technology portfolio risk. And now we enter the definition of what is standard, the possibility to ask to manage this technology reference model integrated with our SAM modules, so that you have things once into the system and approved and reused. Also the possibility to create export then application portfolio management reports in entity relationship diagrams using Lucidchart, and similar to the project status report, export of reports in PowerPoint about the application portfolio reports. And going quick on the last functionality to have time to show then live, the support for architectural artifacts, so documents that are versions controlled that leverage then all the information you should have working with your application portfolio management architecture. Having said that, let me switch to my live demo. And first of all, have a look of the alignment planner workspace, which is an additional functionality we have on strategic portfolio management to see then in portfolios, demands, projects, but also, as you can see here, epics, so having one common type of portfolio, having then logical dependencies behind that, also mapping with goals, organized in portfolios, and additionally could be also linked, as we see on the left side, to initiatives. And as maybe you already know, we have the so-called tracking mode to see how investments are performing during implementation, or the possibility to define new demands, new epics, or new projects directly from these surface. So it's very easy to be used, very powerful to have also communications between stakeholders, having comments and attachments at the level of roadmap, but also at single level of each object. So in case of projects, of demands, of epics, whatever, this information can be easily exchanged and looked on this in this way. Also special then to the new Tokyo release, the possibility to have the so-called backlog in a ranking form, and also the possibility to have a planning state, so having basically a filtering on what kind of backlog items will be reflected in your roadmap. So not everything is the backlog will be shown the roadmap, but typically only the items that are in status prioritized. Last but not least, of course, support for goals for the different planning periods that let you then match your investments, demands, epics, and projects to the different goals. This is alignment planner workspace as you find it in Tokyo. If we come then to the further new functionalities, we have for the project status report. So now I'm looking into a project, the project 180 and 360 feedback, and I am then in the section status report. Now in the Tokyo release, we have an additional button if we go on the upper side right, which is called export to PowerPoint. In order to use that, there is a definition of templates. So you could define different templates or formatted type of PowerPoint that will be generated from the same base of data, which is the current status report. So when I click on that, first of all, I get then a small menu that is asking of the status report date. So I could select also old one. This is in the case the last active I have. And then I have the list of the templates that has been then defined. So that basically you can define only one, but also different type of. For example, we deliver a default one. You could have it more compact, having fewer pages and so on. And it's very easy to be, for example, then changed and modified using classical PowerPoint functionalities. After then selecting, your PowerPoint will be downloaded, and let's see the results. I open this PowerPoint, I get a new PowerPoint. For example, this is the standard template we deliver, so it's even written example templates. What, for example, I added for this presentation is in the master view, then the logo of Capture on the upper right side, and basically here you go with your presentation. Interesting is that information are not extracted as a picture, but behind that there is then the possibility to work with the data on that, so that you have then the data behind that. You could then also then work and, for example, edit this data in Excel and have then this information further for further changes. So this is basically the way as you work in PowerPoint, extract the data live and have this information at your fingerprint. And of course, you can do with this PowerPoint presentation basically what you want. What I was showing before is, and in the meantime, it opens my Excel, is exactly that behind a picture, we have the data also exported. So it's a full operational PowerPoint that you can furtherly change the way you would like. Back to my presentation. This is the project status report, and very similar from application portfolio management, the generation of the application portfolio PowerPoint presentation. Also new in this Tokyo release is the overview in financials. So now we are still in the single project management view. I switch from status report to the financial sections, and as you typically know from previous releases, we have cost plans, monetary benefits plans. If you have investment funding activated, you have also the funding option. And new in Tokyo is then this so-called overview page. The overview page shows the following. In down, I have my fiscal periods, fiscal years, and quarters. And in the different columns, I have basically 2 dimensions nested. The first is the type, budget, plan costs, actual costs, variance, and estimated completion and estimate to completion. And the second, the nested dimension, is CAPEX, OPEX, and total, so that I have a complete overview by quarters and by fiscal year of all these type of information in once. There is also the possibility to export this overview in Excel, as were used in other type of similar views, but also then the possibility to reduce these nested dimensions called breakdown columns, for example, to visualize only the total and have a very compact overview of this part. Also with this possibility of drill down, so that you have a complete overview basically on these sections, additionally to cost plans, monetary benefits plans, and funding requests in the way you were used to work before. If we go back then to my PowerPoint and we stop our presentation that we produced, let's go back to my presentation. Reviewing export to PowerPoint, we have seen how it works live, so very easy to be done, and also the possibility to change then the template working with PowerPoint, so you don't need special knowledge to change the logo or put 2 diagrams in one page or changing other type of information. Project financial metrics overview, exactly the functionality I showed you live before, a very compact and powerful overview of everything. And then also mentioned before, the possibility to have then dependencies between schedules of the project in the hard version of in the new project workspace that we are continually expanding from release to release. Rounding up from application portfolio management, the concept of technology reference model in a couple of minutes we have here available. So as you maybe know, in application portfolio management, we have business applications, which are typically the application that provide capabilities to end users. And below, we are able to map also then the deployed instances. So what kind of infrastructures we are using, servers, software, and hardware we are using then to provisions and to provide these capabilities that the business application provides. This is through the integration with IT operation management, with discoveries and business services. We are able to map then the application service, so the deployed instances of applications, and also then get from SAM and HAM the life cycle of the related infrastructure, hardware and server. So that we can, for example, calculate the risk of a business application based on the end of life of some software or hardware. And in Tokyo release, we introduced the concept of approved software. So basically the possibility by typically enterprise architects to define from the software asset management catalog, or without, if you don't use our SAM solution, the list of the softwares and versions and the life cycle of the approval of these versions, and have then this information displayed, having also a process to ask for new versions or for new type of software, and also then have the technical check if knowing what kind of software is installed on what kind of server connected with the business application, we have then technical check and can say at the level of business application who is using not approved then standard software, what we called the technical debt. So this was all from my side on Tokyo. Of course, if you're interested in knowing more, just contact Capture. They're very happy to go deeper, and I'm also here to help you in the case you would like then to contact us. Back to you.
Thank you, Andreas. Many thanks for the demo and for the notes on the new release. Just one question. So basically, we have now Tokyo released in September, and the next one will come in, I believe, in the spring, the next release.
Exactly. We have a classical path of 6 months of release. So we are, let's say, we are developing our software with safe methodology. So every 6 months, we have constantly our new release with new functionalities. Keep in mind that we have also functionalities we release through the ServiceNow store. And the alignment planner workspace is a classical example on that. And the store have more releases than twice by year. So that, for example, the alignment planner workspace can have more than 2 releases, so that you basically get added value of new functionalities of the application released in store quicker. You don't have to use it. You can then upgrade when you want.
All right, many thanks. Many thanks for the input. So basically, we have a few more minutes left. So I would open up a Q&A session. And we actually have already 2 questions from the chat, or basically through the question functionality. I would just read them out now. The first one is, by looking at your implementation landscape, I believe that goes to you, James. It looks like many parties, different departments and stakeholders, and lots of technical teams have been involved in the execution. How did the collaboration between Innio and Capture work?
A good question. Essentially, Capture was sort of, well, Ferry, you were our project manager, so you were doing most of the coordination on your side. You made my life very easy. So how did it work? Capture was basically in the lead for most of it, and it worked out very well.
Yeah, many thanks for that. All right, the second one, I believe that's also coming to you, James. How are the projects grouped into portfolios? Are the portfolios following an organizational structure as business units, for example? Please give a few examples of the critical KPIs you are controlling in each portfolio, if that's possible. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, we are. We are broken down into portfolios. We have an IT portfolio, we have a finance portfolio, we have a services portfolio, and so on. We also use the portfolio functionality to ensure that people who are working in a particular business area only see the projects that are in their business area. So for somebody who is working in the sourcing department, they will only normally see sourcing projects. They won't be able to see the IT portfolio or the engineering portfolio. There's a few of us who are in a group that we call the Global PMO, and we have visibility across the platform. If when I look in, I see right now something like 2,500 project records. But when my colleague from sourcing looks in the system, they see 12 projects at the moment. That's just the way it is. So we do use portfolios. They are based on the different PMOs, respective to the different business units. And the KPIs, we are still working on this right now. The transformation office has contacted me recently to set up a top 10 view and report for them, so that they can see the top 10 projects happening in the organization. And we're still discussing about exactly which KPIs we want to look at. Maybe financial benefit, maybe total budget, maybe some other flag in terms of complexity. We have different different fields for flagging projects that are value creation projects or future-oriented projects or standard projects. So we're still working on that. I don't really have an answer to it yet.
All right. Many thanks, James, again. Let me just give a few more seconds for the audience if there are any further questions, because so far that's the two what we have. Nothing else so far. Because we are actually at the end of the session, I would then basically close it here. If you have any further questions, then feel free to reach out to us. And basically anyone who were speaking today and any of the contacts that you have at Capture. And what else is remaining for today, then just to thank you for joining, everyone, and being with us for that 1 hour. And hopefully we see you in the next session as well. So thank you, everyone,
Thank you,
and
Ferry.
have a nice day. Thank
Goodbye.
you, James and Andreas, also for the contribution.
It has been a pleasure. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.